Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing Lucky. So this is a new film that's come out just recently, went straight to DVD. It's directed by John Carroll Lynch, who is best known for playing the husband to Frances McDormand's character in Fargo, as also the killer in Gothika and Zodiac. And I'm not sure if he's directed before, and I don't know if this is his director debut, but this is the first time I've seen one of his films as director. It stars the late great Harry Dean Stanton. Tom Skerritt appears in it. It also David Lynch is in it, and a variety of other character actors that appear in it, and well-known sort of people. And it's a story. It's just like a spiritual journey, as they call it, of this 90-year-old man who's coming to terms with the fact he's lived so long that his death may be soon, and it's about how he comes to terms with that sort of stuff. And it's set in a small town, sort of a wacky little film in a way, set in a small town, and it just sort of shows his day-to-day life, where he gets up, turns the radio on, has a cigarette, does some yoga exercises, gets dressed and goes into town to a cafe where he sits and has a coffee and does a crossword. And that's sort of what he does every day, and there's a lot of people that he meets along the way. And it's sort of, about him coming to terms with things and being scared, not knowing what's going to happen next. And it sort of goes through his beliefs and his acceptance of things. And he interacts with all these really bizarre and interesting characters. And it's really interesting to watch. Look, Harry Dean Stanton's fantastic in it. It's his final film performance before he passed away. And he gives such a great performance. He shows that even though he's in his 90s, he's still got it. He can still provide such a great performance, a layered performance, and an interesting character he presents to us on screen. And with any other actor, the film might have been as good, because not a lot happens. It's a very simple and basic film. But his presence, he has presence and charisma that just suck you in, and you just want to watch him. You just want to see him on screen and watch things unfold and go on this journey with him. He's fascinating to look at. And he's spot on with a lot of stuff. And it's kind of interesting to think, one, that they cast him in such a role. Two, it's his final performance. And three, it sort of makes you wonder where his real life ends and the movie begins, or vice versa, because you watch this film and there's a lot of stuff that he talks about that you don't know whether it's just scripted, written stuff, or it's based upon his experiences. Because there's stories he tells, and if they're not based on true experiences, what amazing acting he does in this film. You really feel it. He has his face is so interesting that you just want to watch him all the time. And it goes through that. You don't quite know where reality ends and the film begins, because there's a scene with he meets Tom Skerritt's character, which they were in Alien together, and they have this really great scene where they're talking about war and stuff like that, and Skerritt starts to tell this story, and you don't know whether it's one of the greatest pieces of acting or it's reality based. It's quite fascinating to watch. And this it has everything, what Harry Dean does best, sort of doesn't say a lot. He can express so much with his face, and when he goes to the diner, that's like his daily outing, you know what I mean? And he loves to do these crosswords, and there's a lot of humour in it, and the characters sort of give each other shit along the way. And David Lynch is kind of a really interestingly bizarre character. These two have been friends for a long time. He first appeared, I think, in David Lynch's one of David Lynch's films, Wild at Heart, and I think that's where they've known each other. And there was a documentary done about Harry Dean Stanton called Partly Fiction, where he's in, David Lynch is in it, and Chris Christopherson. They start to talk about him, and he tells stories within that as well. And he plays an interesting character in this. What I liked about this, it was a simple, basic sort of thing, and to watch Harry Dean Stanton at his age giving such a performance, I just was fascinated by it, and I wanted to follow him, and I get immersed in the world and his sort of life. It was so fascinating. And just this great sort of performance, but it also looks at, as he goes on this journey, he starts to think what life is about and what he believes and what may happen after you die. He starts to change. Like each morning we see him, he follows a routine, and then there's one morning he doesn't. He does something completely different. As like he's become aware of things and came to an understanding, and it changes as well. Even when he goes into the cafe and usually sits in this particular stool seat at the counter, that's taken up. So he ends up taking a booth, and then from that point on, he's always in that booth, and then people come and talk to him, they interact. He's really asking questions about life and death and what happens to you. He talks about life being, death being a void. And I said, well, how do you overcome that? And he sort of says, you just smile and you accept it and you get on with things. And it's so interesting to watch, and his interaction with people and his loneliness and his struggle through this. He's really great. There's this really great scene between him and a young woman who works at the cafe, and they have this sort of intimate sort of scene where they hug each other and offer support to each other. It's really interesting and great to see. And it just it's just really interesting. And other things that happen too, especially at the end. He usually walks, and he's a very fast walker for a 90-year-old man, and he cruises along like he's always focused on getting somewhere. And at the end, it's like he decides finally of his acceptance of things. He sort of stops and he takes in things. He stops in front of this cactus, and he starts to observe actually what's there and take the time to see these things and not rush past them. And I think that's very relevant in life these days, where we're so busy with things, with life, with work, with families and stuff like that, that we're just focusing on that, and we miss all these really great things like beautiful sunny days and what's actually happening in front of us. And I think this is a great metaphor for that. Through a character like Harry Dean Stanton's character is really is that it's about life, this film. And they call him Lucky because he was in the Navy, but he was a cook, and they reckon that was the luckiest job to have, so that's why he is called Lucky. Look, as his final performance, I'm blown away by Harry Dean Stanton. There's a man who's been around so long and had been in so many different films and worked with so many different directors and really great actors, and was one of the people who got Chris Christopherson into acting in the first place. And there's a lot of stuff about him that's fascinating. And it's like when he acts, it's like he's not acting, he's just present and being there, and being this character and being present is so great to see. And what a great love letter to him this film is, as his last performance. And John Carroll Lynch does a really great job, and simplicity, simply shot, beautifully, looks beautiful, simple acting, simple dialogue, and it's just a great sort of film that you get swept up in, like some great poem or something like that Harry could have written himself. So look, final verdict, this is a really great low budget simple film. If you like a simple and basic story with a really fascinating character and such a great performance by Harry Dean Stanton, you'll enjoy this. If you like Harry Dean Stanton at all, you'll really thoroughly enjoy this. Not a lot happens in it, and it's very simple, and it's like a fly on the wall of a person's life, but it's so well done and so interesting to watch. Look, I'm going to give this 4.5 out of 5. I think Harry Dean Stanton's brilliant, and I love, and it's such a great final performance, and I love the way it's directed and made. And it just is really, really great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyway, that's all for me today. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here today, please hit subscribe down the bottom. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.